Hey, everybody.
All
We're at a,
right.
yeah, we're live and at a lovely coffee shop here in Saigon. Life is good. And I'm with cousin Long here in the meantime. So, yeah, you can introduce yourself here. We actually are cousins, believe it or not,
Oh,
cousins
yeah.
by marriage. Yeah,
Technically, we're
yeah, let's say.
cousins.
Yeah, but in the meantime, brothers. Yeah.
Yep.
So, anyway, we're shredding it in Saigon and want to make a quick trip down here. But let's see. Bong is born and raised in Saigon.
Born and raised.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And yeah, he's been very instrumental. And we actually just met for the first time. Gosh.
For the first time in 2 years.
I
A year or so,
suppose.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we did meet. What I was going to say is for the first time here in maybe about 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And to my shock and amazement, Bong's native English speaker. So I thought he was from the United States. So that happens.
Plot twist, I never been to any English speaking countries.
Right,
Ever.
right. Which is definitely saying something. So either way, makes for a terrific morning. And yeah, the also let's see, how old are you?
I am 24,
24. Good.
4 years old.
And basically, you could also say, yeah, learning English. How did you go about that?
Well, I don't know when my English start kicks into me.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up just watching cable TV, like HBO, Star movies, anything like that, the kids would watch. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, I started out with Cartoon Network. Every kid's do. But, I just kind of wanted to know what the hell they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Since most of the time they don't have subtitles. So, one day, after I think 10 years of continuous watching, and I just starting to I think by English. I suddenly
Mm.
understand it, and I just start thinking with it. And the other stuff like grandmas and grammar, not grandma, I learned in school, and it just came in quick. Like when I start learning it, it's just like, oh, okay, so that's what it means. So that's why you use it. Okay, then it just kicks in.
Sure,
I
sure.
may go to a few English school here and there, but I was a kid. I don't want to study shit. Just want to make fun, have fun. So yeah, turns out I have a talent for English, or a talent for languages in general, and I can mimic the my accent to be perfect.
Amen to that.
Amen. Yeah.
Amen. Well, it's been wonderful too to have somebody on the other side of the bridge, which is to say, being a American guy that learned Vietnamese to a decent level, hanging with Bong, who learned English to a respectable level. We kind of climbed the mountain from either side. And it's nice having Bong on the live stream here now because he can answer questions, especially about culture and different angles of life. And again, just give the Vietnamese perspective, which is terrific. Um, so there's a lot of interesting stuff that we're going to look at covering here today, and mostly having to do with um, the usual making a trip from the United States or from your home country over here to Asia, what that really takes. Now, to kind of focus on this, the reason why this is a big deal, when I look around on online forums, whether that's Reddit, Facebook groups, among other places, the big idea is that there's a lot of people who are thinking about making the move. Let's say moving from America to Vietnam, whether that's retiring, wanting to come to Vietnam to work, or want to basically move overseas or just want to change in their life. But the thing is, it's easier said than done. Yeah. Uh, mm.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Mr. Zool. Hey, this is you met Tom.
I remember him.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
been a while.
It's been a minute. Yeah. He's still back in Minnesota, I imagine. Yeah. Hmm. Well, this is a little bit directed towards you, Tom. Another way to say the same thing is that, hey, man, don't be afraid to, especially in the winters, swing out here for 6 months if you can, or a few months. Yeah, buddy, you love being here, and there's a lot of wonderful things to be said about that.
A lot of beers and a lot of things for you to do.
Yeah, it's as good as ever. It's definitely good as ever out here. That's for damn sure. Mhm. But so, yeah, the one. So looking at some big things, and to kind of talk real broadly, the idea of coming out here for a lot of people is, hey, make your life better. What I mean by that is, if your life is not better by coming to Vietnam or switching countries, if it becomes worse, then don't do it. You know, okay, like if you're not open minded, if you have a lot of debt, let's just say.
Well, you
You know,
have a lot of debt in your coming here might be a scapegoat.
yeah, let's
Might
just
be.
say. Hey, let's just say, so there's a lot of things that a person's got to straighten out. And also, there's a lot get nervous in new situations that don't like traffic, maybe they don't like major cities, but move to the biggest city in the country. Yikes. Here and something along those lines. So, again, that's a lot of what we're going to be covering here today. And we're just going to try to fix the lighting issue if we can. There we go. A little bit better.
Yeah.
It's morning in Saigon here. Yeah. But anyway, let's see. To kind of take it from the top. Again, I hope this video can serve as a nice overall for folks. To take it from the top, pulling up anchor, just like the name of this stream right here, cutting ties, pulling up anchor, ultimately making the move. Not only Vietnam, but anywhere in Asia. How do we kind of go about that? Well, the best starting point here is downsizing in whatever way that you can. Downsizing your life and getting rid of all the stuff that you don't want and you don't need, in your own life. For example, the artist Michelangelo, who did a lot of carvings, among other things, he said, hey, when he's carving a statue, he doesn't really carve a statue. He just removes everything else that's not a statue. Which is kind of a funny way of thinking about it,
Yeah.
but that's kind of it. Cutting the friends that don't matter, cutting the debts you don't need, cutting the stuff in your house that you don't need, among other things. The more you can cut that down as close to zero as possible and figure out what you need, the better. And a lot of folks, including me back in America and in my home life, had too much shit. I mean, to put it nice and blunt, I had too much shit, too much stuff to move, too many things to worry about, so that makes life considerably more difficult. So I guess step one, reducing your life down to the needs. Reducing your life down to the needs.
And also about the willpower to do it too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, mentally preparing yourself for
Exactly.
shifting everything.
Because it's not always easy to just cut it, You gotta willing to do it, and you are willing to suffer whatever the consequences that comes after it, It's just not easy just cut ties with like your friends, which could be you know not important to your cause. Exactly. You have to willing to do that in order to make the big step, make the
Mhm.
big move. Yeah.
No doubt about it. So, yeah, exactly. The friend side. Well, let's kind of go from the top here. Look, I made this leap already, and so I can specifically. I ended up going to Vietnam for 3 months, and I lived in a one-room, $60 a month, and it was awesome, absolutely awesome. So I lived next to a market. It was $60 a month for rent, $60 a month for food, maybe $100 a month in spending money. But effectively, I was living on $300-400 a month tops, and I was fulfilled. I had everything that I needed. Now, living in this one-room apartment, which is smaller than an American college dorm room, was definitely Spartan, but it made me realize, oh, I just have one outlet and slow internet. That's fine. I can make it work. No hot water. Don't need it. Hey, Henry, buddy. Oh, Henry. I'm glad you're on board, buddy. Again, Bong here is a nice guy to get to know. You might have seen him around on a few Facebook forums and whatnot. He's the guy to know, and he would be not only a tremendous gentleman to help you with your VAs in the long run, but also just to help with general advice. So, and Henry, he's a younger fella, but you would really, really like him. Again, he's been, I catch up with them once, twice a week on online. And,
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, reducing your life. So living in this small world, my life was awesome, absolutely awesome, and it really realized I don't need all this extra crap. That means like after 3 months, here are the problems that I had living here in Vietnam. Vietnam wasn't the problem. Simple life was not the problem. The problem was I had debts in America. So that means I'm spending, let's say, $300 a month here in Vietnam, and I'm perfectly fine. In the meantime, I owe $2,000 a month back to America for miscellaneous bills and expenses and stuff like that. And hey, Henry, yep, I got a passion for Vietnam. That's the spirit, man.
That's the start.
That's the start. Yeah. So, yeah, for example, here are just some examples, and I just bring this up to everybody and want to make this stream because I don't want people to make the same mistakes that I did. Some examples of this include one, I still had to pay rent while I was gone. Yikes. My roommates were racking up power bill while I was gone. Yikes. I forgot to shut off my cell phone and put that on hold. Ouch. My gym membership, forgot to cancel that. Car insurance, forgot that. Medical insurance, I could have put that on hold. Next. You start adding these up. These are all small by themselves, but you add them all up, and next thing you know, that's $2,000 a month. That we owe, or that I owe in this case, and that's got to be paid while I'm gone. And if I don't pay it, it'll just pile up for me. So sure as shit, when I went all the way home, not only did I spend all my money while I was here in Vietnam, but then I went into debt to be able to cover all these expenses that I didn't even use. I got to pay $100 a month for a phone that I didn't even turn on. Car insurance that I never drove. That kind of thing. So again, the big idea is to reduce all of this stuff that you don't need. Now, this is true if you're traveling for just 1 month, sure. And it's true if you're traveling for years, more so. I had a buddy of mine travel out here for a couple of months, and I was telling him, shut off your internet, shut off your cable, shut off your car insurance, shut off, we listed off 7 things you can shut off or put on hold. And he was thinking, oh, that's too much work to make all these phone calls. And I'm like, brother, sit down. We're doing it today. It took about an hour. And all of a sudden, he ended up saving $600 a month times 2, $1,200.
Right.
Lawyers don't make $1,200 an hour, all because you can cut ties with what you've got going on at home. This
takes 1 hour. Only takes 1 hour.
Ideally, some things are more complicated than that, but yeah, in general. So That's a big one. Shutting off bills. Um, yep. Okay. These are the biggest ones, and because these are the most obvious and the easiest ones. And I did want to let you all know that Verizon phone company in America, this is only applicable to America. But yeah, you can call them up and they'll put your bill on hold, keep your phone number, charge you nothing, and they'll just freeze your account effectively, for 2, 3, 4 months or whatever length of time that you need. That'll work. That's a good start.
And you can do all of that in America.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Exactly. Or you can do it in Vietnam. Just phone back to them and just tell them like, hey, I just want to cut. I'm not home right now. I don't want to lose money. So can you put that on hold for me? Yeah, it just takes maybe 10 to 15 minute phone call. Usually.
Yeah, and half the time when you're talking with the folks on the phone, like you're like, hey, I don't need my car insurance. I'm in Vietnam. A lot of times on the other side, they're like, wow, really? That's amazing. I wish I could go. I'm like, yeah, man, blah, blah, blah. So blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it works out really, really well. And so a person can, generally speaking, cut a lot of their expenses really fast and really easy. Now, one thing I did is right here. I basically went into I went on my online account and I actually printed my last 2 years of bank statements and credit card statements and stuff like that. And then I got out a bunch of multicolored highlighters. And then I started going through what are my residual, expenses that I can cut, red highlight. And a lot of times on your statements, it'll even have a phone number right there already. Again, insurance, etc. Good. Figure out everything that's got to go, because ideally, while you're here, you can have your home expenses be zero. And I keep focusing on this because this matters. If you've got $1,000 a month flowing out of your account every month while you're here in Vietnam, that's a serious hit, my friends. That's about as much as it costs to live here. I mean, $1,000 a month, even in Saigon, you could do it. Would you agree?
Exactly. $1,000 in Saigon. That roughly into Vietnamese money around 20 million or more, 24, 25 million. And that is a lot, for, high level officials in Vietnam making 24 million a month is, that's up there.
Yeah.
That's up in the high rise.
Definitely. Literally and figuratively, you could actually get a condo in a high rise. Yeah, for that kind of money. Yeah. Exactly. All because of a few phone calls. Yeah, so yeah, we're talking about big stuff. So yeah, reducing your expenses, figure out what you don't need to pay for, and things like that. So okay, moving on. You guys are all pretty smart folks in that regard, saving money, printing bank statements. And in the end, I was gonna say switching over. Getting a. We'll let them deal with this. Here we go. Along the way, I was going to say digitizing your life in one direction or another goes a long ways. We'll let them figure this out, though. Hold on one second. Jesus. Yeah. Pardon? Just appreciate your patience. This magic is. I love these coffee shops. They keep it active. All right. Moving forward, getting a phone number. Now, I did want to tell you guys this.
It just makes up our order.
That's fine. Yeah. So, moving forward, getting a Skype number or having some sort of American phone number where you can be reached internationally forever goes a long ways. specifically, to say this a little more clearly, if you try to use your normal American phone number assigned to you via a normal American phone company, it's going to be ridiculously, outrageously, unfathomably expensive. I had a buddy of mine who ended up coming here to Vietnam, and he wanted to use his. Okay, that's cool. And
Is it
he
Travis?
negative, different guy. But he was like, Brad, it doesn't matter. It's just $10, and then they'll let me call internationally. I'm like, no, man, you're in for a sticker shock, my dear friend. It's not that simple, not at all, no, sir.
No.
And I kept screaming at him, get an international phone number, and he didn't believe me. So then it turns out it's $10 a day, and on top of that, it's $1 a text message to send, and 50 cents a message to receive, and $2 per picture message that you send. So this whole they allow international phone calls, and see, it's only $10, Brad. What would you know? A lot, by the way. I've done this for a decade. Yeah. So anyway, when he got home, his bill was in the $800, like $860. If he only would have listened to me, he wouldn't have had a problem. Okay. So yes, you can get a American Skype number +1 space area code space 7 digits. That if someone were to call it, your phone rings here in Vietnam. And once you get this number, it's free, basically, as many phone calls as you want. They're all done over Wi-Fi, or they're done over 3G.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Or one other thing to do is you can actually get a Vietnamese international phone number.
Oh, what do you know about that?
Vietnamese different telephone companies or telecom companies. They like Mobifone or Vinaphone or anything like that. They can go international now, and only for well-known countries like the U.S. or Europe, kind of like that. They they act as similar international phone numbers, but they only cost a portion of that. Like Verizon, you get like $1 for a text message, but this one you only cost about 25 cents, give or take.
Okay, got it. So, and it is a +1 prefix, like in a.
It will have its own prefix. Yeah, but you have you have your Vietnamese international phone number, and I think that is more. It's better than if you're planning to live in Vietnam.
Right.
Having that, or just have a regular phone number and use the internet. Facebook, anything like that. There are countless of application online, which is free.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay a dime. You just use internet. You can contact people, all around the world. That's the beauty in Vietnam right now. We have internet. Everything that is in the United States, and you can basically contact anyone. Just sign into your internet.
Yep, and you got 4G right here on your phone.
4G, yeah.
Yes.
4G. Maybe we're coming up to 5G here soon.
Right.
Like Korea.
There's some advantages to being in a major city, I gotta say. I mean, on my phone right now, I'm just on 3G, but I can pull about 30 megabits a second. By the way, you need less than 1 megabit a second to make a phone call. So I could make 30 simultaneous phone calls from my phone right now, just over data, back to America, all at the same time. No issues and no problems. So there's a lot to be said about that. And yeah, and also, well, I did want to mention this. I got you in there. I am able to make phone calls from here to America in general for free. Yes. But like, let's say I use Skype and I don't have a Skype number. I can still make the phone call, but what shows up on the caller ID is either going to be 99999 or 00000, some weird thing like that. And the problem is it's a one-way ordeal, which means I can call from America to any landline or cell phone number, but they can't call me back. Now, what I'm talking about here by getting a Skype number, that's going to be an American source number with an American prefix. So that means that if American people call that number, then it patches over to my phone here. So being able to have the two-way phone call thing is a really big deal. In fact, places like, let's say, your bank or credit card company or insurance company or anybody are going to want to have your phone number, a phone number that they can reach you, I think is the key fact here. So, yep, that's the big idea. So you've got to get that arranged and make a plan for it, one way or another. So anyway, to talk, getting a phone number, communication is a huge one. But I was going to say also the Gmail to do free calls in the U.S. and Canada. Hey there, Kung. Yeah. Oh, you met Kung. You know who
Oh
he is.
yeah, definitely. Great guy.
Yes. Now that is true that we can use Gmail. Now there's what you're talking about is doing like a call over Hangouts. So that means if the recipient in America has Hangouts and you have Hangouts, you're good to go. Or if they have Zalo, you have Zalo. They have WhatsApp, you have WhatsApp. They have Facebook, you have Facebook. Something like that. Yeah, absolutely. This works out quite well. In the meantime, if again we're talking about standard phone numbers, for one reason or another, American companies don't like to use Zalo. You can't just say, call me on Zalo. No, they call on normal phone lines. So whatever. We'll put that aside for the time being. Now, when another very, very important thing and is right here, digitizing your life. Now, a lot of people think that they got things digitized. That's cool. That's cool. But I'm going to put this app on here, and maybe one of y'all can look this up. I think maybe you can help me look this up when you're free.
Yep.
It's called Photodyne. But basically, what this is, now this sounds minor. It's going to sound minor, but it's actually major. What this means is when I was back in the States, I had full photo books. I mean, my grandmother, for example, has just a pile of pictures, from the last 50 years. That's cool. That's cool. But again, when we're talking about moving, from one country to the next, the important idea here is physical pictures don't come with you. They don't go in the bag. That's another example of something physical that you've got to get rid of in your own life. So you take an app like Photodyne, and again, if you could look this up, that'd be cool. Or if any of y'all can look it up and give me an exact link. The idea is you can lay out a whole bunch of photos on a table, let's just say, 4 at a time, and then just take a picture with your smartphone, and it will automatically reorient them, crop them, and all that, and then start saving them. And yes, you can tag a series of photos. Like the next 100 pics are going to be from a family reunion, let's just say.
Photodyne technology right here.
Yep. Oh, I spelled it correctly the first try. Okay, awesome. Awesome. But yeah, the cool part is if you have an entire box of photos or even negatives for that matter, it only takes like an hour or two. Lay them out on a table. Next, next, next. I did this with my grandparents, among other people, and yes, they were able to digitize thousands of photos in an hour. And then you've got them online, on the cloud, or whatever the case is. You can review them anytime, anywhere, let alone share them with anybody, anywhere. So, as a result, like let's just say if you lost the original actual printed photos, you're still good to go. In a lot of ways, you have to actually think about this move overseas as kind of like what happens if your house were to burn down? What are you bringing? And what do you got to know? What are you going to miss the most? And for a lot of people, it's actually photos, believe it or not. That's the big thing. A lot of times, especially photos from 20 years ago, were shot once, printed once, and you got one physical photo, and that's it, nothing else. So Photodyne is a good way of digitizing all of that. Now, you can do this, obviously, while you're in your home country. It's a good idea to do in general. And you don't have to burn the originals, but if they're gone, you don't got to worry about it. So anyway, it sounds small, but in my opinion, this is very big. As my parents were moving from their house in Austin, Minnesota to a new house in Okoboji, Yeah, they had an entire like attics full of photos, kids' paperwork, school projects, stuff like that. Take pictures of it, then you don't got to worry. So anyway, digitizing your life in that regard is a really good move. I took it a step further and I did other things like all of the paperwork that I had up. Actually, I got a lot of birthday cards, my grandparents, let's just say, which is wonderful. Letters that I've physically written from one person to another, took photos of all of it. So I actually had a digital camera, my smartphone, and a scanner, and we were just reading it. It took like 6 days. I digitized every single piece of paper, every photo, everything that I had, over this time. And yes, I bought a terabyte external hard drive to put everything on there. So you need this. So now you can look back on a piece of paperwork. You don't want to call America and be like, hey, by the way, Mom, can you go into the attic? I think it's a white box, and I think it's inside of this white box. It's filled with 10,000 pieces of paper, but I think it's inside of a red envelope, maybe, and it should look sort of like this. Don't do that. Don't do that. Be able to look on Google Drive. Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's way easier.
And that's the beauty of today's technology.
Yes. Yes.
You can pretty much bring everything that you like, bring your experience from this country to another. Like, you can have your entire album of your life when you're just a toddler to now, fully digitized and put it in a hard drive. You can bring it anywhere you go. Bring your childhood to every corner of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Certainly.
As long as there's the internet, of course.
Granted. But anyway, yep, Photo9. This is a big one. But all right, well, let's flip the script here a little bit. Tell me, what's life like in Saigon? I know it's kind of hard to compare and hard to know where to start, but how could you generally describe life in Saigon? What do you got to know?
It is busy. It is very busy, as much for every major city in any part of the world. It is very busy, and everyone is always in a hustle. You got to work to pay the bills. That's generally everywhere. And let's just say compare it to Hue. You will see 10 times as many motorcycles on the street, and everyone is busy. Everyone just wanted to work, go to their work, and mind their own business. And there are not much sitting around and relaxing, because it is a very busy city. Everywhere you go, you will find a business. Could be either on the side of the street selling coffee or food. But everyone at you know could be working at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time of the week.
So you'd say Saigon is definitely a 7-day-a-week city.
A 7-day-a-week city.
Yeah.
Except national holidays and everything just shut down.
Chet. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I gotta definitely go there. But would you say you're happy here in Saigon overall, or would you move tomorrow if you had the choice?
If I have a choice, I would move, because I'm more of a relaxing and chill guy. Of course I have to work, but if I had given a choice, I would just maybe move to, I don't know, maybe the lot. The lot is great. Anyway,
All right.
That's a great place too. But no, I was born and raised here in Ho Chi Minh City, or Saigon. No matter how I look at it, it's still home. I still call it home. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So, well, would you say it's easy for people to adapt to life in Saigon? Like if they're expats, for example, or living in a different country, would Saigon be a good choice for a first city, or would you say maybe not?
I think it would be a great choice.
Oh, it would? Okay.
Because as a person, you came from America, for example, you have a lot of commodities like full blown internet or Starbucks, McDonald's, or anything of that sort. Western commodities. Have all of that here in Ho Chi Minh City. And
That's
for
probably
a
true.
first step for a foreigner, to get accustomed to Vietnamese life, Ho Chi Minh is a great place because it have everything that it has in for
Western
example, a
country.
Western country.
Mhm.
So it is a small step for you to get slowly be accustomed to Vietnamese, for example, like food and other thing like internet and living commodities or anything
Mhm.
like that. So it is a great start. But after you get accustomed to the Vietnamese way of life, which is mostly you will be busy, if you want to make some money and live, or well, if you have already have money, then you can have a great time in Vietnam.
Mhm.
You know,
Well, sure. So there is a reason, I guess, in that regard, that a lot of people move to major cities, whether that's Saigon or Hanoi, let's just say, because yeah, it is easier in that regard. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, conveniences, grab, etc.
and of course, the major cities in Vietnam are the prime place for you to start a business. It always have opportunities anywhere. It allows a lot of ideas to flow. You can't really do that in smaller cities or in remote places because in Vietnam still there is a big gap between smaller cities like Hue or in Ho Chi Minh the way people think.
Hmm.
In Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon people, they are more open for ideas. They are more accustomed to other cultures. While in, for example, um, remote cities or remote, smaller towns, they are still enclosure to their own customs, and maybe your business idea will not be, very appealing to them because it is weird. You know, First of all, in Vietnam now, small towns when you go to remote areas, when they see a white man or any foreigner, they will think, they will see it as a unicorn, like a
Ah,
unicorn in a world. They're like, oh, okay, You know, they
sure.
never seen one before.
Maybe a nice metaphor would be if a person wants to open an Afghanistan restaurant.
Oh no.
Well, let's just say, if you were in a major city such as Chicago or Minneapolis, well, that tenth of a 1% of people that would be interested in that, well, you got enough customers to make it happen, and there's enough unique, broad, and international restaurants there, such that people would be open-minded to the idea in general. Whereas if you open up an Afghan restaurant in Austin, Minnesota, it's not going to work. Just period. Not only not enough people, but mentality of folks. So
Exactly.
maybe that would be like a metaphor. So yeah, again, in Saigon, you would have enough people that would want to do that kind of a thing. So if you got a unique or foreigner business idea, it might be a wise move, in that regard. So
You
might be like,
said a culture adaptation kind of a mindset.
sure, 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 sure. So, how much money do you need to? What would be the minimum amount of money you would need to live in Saigon?
It is a little bit higher for Saigon because it is a big city and
Mhm.
prices are different. But I'd say if you're as a foreigner, maybe 400 to $500 per month. That would be, like a very fulfilling level of
Oh,
living arrangement. Yeah.
okay, so you could rent a room for, let's say, $200 a month.
Not that much. Maybe $100 a month, and you get maybe a 4x4
Oh, okay.
or even larger. With
Ah,
extra commodities like a toilet or electricity and other furniture, it will come full of that with $100.
okay.
Yeah.
And to put that in American terms, that's roughly exactly about 1,200 square feet. So that's not too shabby, actually. you could make it work, with something
Yeah.
along those lines.
And you don't really need a big apartment to live, or if that your kind of thing, But to get accustomed in Vietnam, you gotta kind of feel the Vietnamese lifestyle. So just go for a small thing first, and maybe when you're accustomed and you can make the change, buy
Mhm.
yourself a nice apartment,
Mhm.
or kind of like that.
Right on, right on. So, well, okay, to kind of shift the script a little bit. All right, talking about friends and family. Talking about friends and family, because that's a major thing when it comes to switching from America to Vietnam. Is yeah, you got to say goodbye to basically everyone you ever met. Boom.
Say
All
goodbye
of
to your grandma. Say goodbye to your puppy.
that's right.
Everything.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean that you won't see them. You won't see them for the rest of your life. They can always come here. They can always come and visit. And you can come back and visit too. And you will make a ton of more friends in Vietnam. So that won't be a problem, I'd say.
Well, right. Yes and no. And that's a great, yeah, you brought up some great starting points. So, some starting points here would be, well, first of all, let me back up. In my own experience, I did this leap and I've been here for pushing 3 years now. So, yes, there is a lot of folks I had to say goodbye to. And yeah, it is pretty tricky from time to time or emotional from time to time. But some important ideas are one, I had a major goodbye party when with everybody, and like I said goodbye to over 200 people. Yes, I hugged my grandparents. Yes, I said goodbye to my family and announced my departure and that kind of thing. So before I left, we're talking a couple weeks of phone calls with friends and picking a time to catch up. And I even made a loop around Minnesota, Wisconsin to try to see as many people as I could for effectively the last time. And
Then not just say it the last time.
well, you kind of in your mind, you have to have this idea of maybe not last, but chill further notice. So this is a longer goodbye than what you're normally used to. Normally, you can just think to yourself, oh, my buddy lives in Minneapolis, so I could drive there in a couple hours and see him anytime I want. Ha ha ha. And that's true. But now you can't. So, given that fact, having a big goodbye party, is a really big deal. And
Go out with a bang.
go out with a bang. You might as
Yeah.
well. I had a 4-day goodbye party.
Oh.
In 4 different cities. So
Is it in your party bus?
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I want to see it sometime if it's still there.
Oh yeah, it probably is.
Oh, yeah.
So next, you got to remember that you're also going to be saying goodbye to the normal events. Like here's an example. Every summer, mid-July is a camp extravaganza party that I would go to. What about going to Larry Fest? What about Oktoberfest? What about the?
They have that in Minneapolis.
Oh yeah,
I thought
yeah.
Oktoberfest only in Germany.
Oh, sir, we've got that. But yeah, among other really big special events. So what that means is, like, I got to say goodbye to all of them. Like, I'm not going to Larry Fest anymore. I'm not going to be, at certain parties, that typically happen every year. For example, I had, let's say 15 consistent parties that I went to every single year. Now that drops to 0. What about your classic, hangout buddies at the coffee shop? Nope, not going to be there anymore. Your buddy's birthday parties, stuff like that. Nope, not going to be there. So, putting this in perspective, that's a lot of, you're saying goodbye to more than just the people. You're also saying goodbye to all the fun events and all the fun stuff that's happening.
Basically, your lifestyle.
Yeah, your whole lifestyle, the way you define yourself socially is ripped up and thrown away. Well, not sort of. I mean, the way you would normally typically live your life and what you normally do, your normal schedule, normal everything is gone. And so that's a really difficult thing to work with, or a difficult thing for your mind to comprehend, especially folks who are older. Let's say if you're 40, 50, and now you're deciding to take all of this and, you know, start over, trade it all in. That's tough. That's really, really tough. So, ways of mitigating this. One, make your last time a bang. Like if it's your last Oktoberfest, make it awesome and let everyone know this might be it. You know, go out with a bang, go out like a champion. Two, keep it all in your calendar, and then next time it comes up, for example, Camp Extravaganza or Oktoberfest, make a point to call a bunch of your friends, ahead of time and just say, hey, sorry I couldn't get you, or call them afterwards and say something like, hey, how was it? Tell me about it. What happened here? Can I see some pics? That kind of thing. And it keeps you to a degree connected. And that's really easy to do and free. So yeah, you've got to mentally make a point to try to stay as connected as you can. In the case of your coffee shop buddies, well, yeah, with technology these days, call them all up on Facebook and be like, hey, yeah, chat with all your old friends, once in a while. You'll find that you both miss it on one hand, but on the other hand, maybe you don't, because you got a new life here. And you traded it all. That's right. That's right. That's right. So it is true that I had to say goodbye to a lot of my friends in America, including you, Tim. But at the same time, I made hundreds of friends here in Vietnam. So actually, I have more friends in Vietnam than I do back at home by a long shot. By a long shot, probably 5 times more friends here in Vietnam. So you got to be ready for that. You're ready for that mental shift from what your life was used to be like and what you used to have to completely new, friendship style, while at the same time trying to connect to the old. So it is kind of interesting, but it is mentally. Yeah. And so, yeah, because you've been here your whole life. So this is kind of one aspect where it's like, oh,
I mean, myself, I live in France. And, I know I'm going to be there for 3 years, but it is somewhat like a big leap. Moving to some point A to point B, kind of a thing. I have to say goodbye to a lot of friends. I didn't make any big parties because that's not my style. But yeah, when I come there, I make a full mentality that I have to make new friends. I can't just cling on, holding on to my old friends in Vietnam, because I'm not going to see them 24/7 like I used to. I have to make new friends. I have to make new lifestyle changes, and yeah, kind of like that. And it is kind of the same when I move back to Vietnam too, because I have to, get rid of all that Europeans lifestyle kind of a thing. No more parties or this and that.
Kind of stuff. Yeah, definitely. Yikes. So yeah, with the friends, you got to take this into account. There is again a lot to be said about it. Use technology, I guess, is the best thing. So a lot of our answers and ideas here are going to focus back on simplify and technology. Cut out what you don't need.
Exactly.
We could probably sum up 2 hours right there. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. But tắm một ly cà phê nữa, một ly cà phê đến. And
you're getting pretty good in Vietnamese.
Oh, speak it every day, bro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Well, let's flip the script here. Okay. When it comes to okay, let's just say all of your stuff. What do you do with your stuff? Because normal people actually build up a lot of stuff, throughout their life. And this can include everything from obviously clothes, let's go there. Pieces of artwork. All right. Life. Hey, thank you. Love your Vietnamese. All right. Well, hey, we could switch to Vietnamese if I really want to. Yeah. So yeah, cuộc sống ở Mỹ đã có nhiều hàng. I had a lot of things, like yeah, ảo quan và mỹ thuật và quyển sách, quyển sách. I had a lot of books, let's just say, vàของnghe, máy tin điện thoại và máy tin, printers, hard drives, computers, car. Let's just say. I mean, you can't bring that. What about a microwave, crock pot? What about all your other technology, right? And so that can be a little tricky. Now, what a lot of people have found, like I was talking with my buddy Peter, and he's from South Africa. Well, he's a perfect example. They actually owned a house in South Africa and a car and a house full of shit, that is. And at some point, he ended up obviously selling his car, packing up a bunch of his stuff, and then put his house under property management. That means another company actually manages the property itself and finds the renters, collects the rent, checks it over, inspection, does all the work effectively, and then pays off the mortgage, does what all has got to be done, And in that regard, they can walk away and not show up for years, no issues. What a lot of people, including Peter and including me, have found is that you don't need it. You just don't need it. Like Peter was telling me, like, oh, microwave, I don't need it. Pizza oven, don't need it. Crock pot, don't need it. Like all the appliances in his kitchen went to zero.
You can find that shit in Vietnam.
If you need it.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah. But in reality, once again, he didn't rebuy it. He's like, oh, I can live without it. How about that? You need a rice cooker, among other things. Yeah. So getting rid of a lot of your stuff is a big deal, and property, being able to manage that somehow. Ironically enough, a house is actually sort of kind of easier because you are able to rent that out in the meantime. Yes, exactly. You have to travel light. Yeah, and thank you, Kung. All you need is money to buy all that stuff. Yeah. Now, there's the old biblical proverb: in order to pass through the eye of a needle, it's easier for a rich, or it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. What that means is jumping over here, you're going through the eye of the needle, which means, yeah, you got to travel extremely light, like one bag. So you really got to think what you need. Now, putting your house up for property management is a horrific plan. Digitizing everything is a terrific plan. But when it comes to things like your art and whatnot, I found in my own experience, I've got to actually, I ended up giving it away, actually. I had bags and bags of stuff, and I had lists and lists of friends and a whole inventory of things I need to get rid of. And loaded it all up in my bus, and I made a round throughout Minnesota, Wisconsin, giving stuff away. My favorite paintings, I thought of people that would like it, gave it to them. My couch, yeah, a couple of my poor buddies that work in a factory. I'm like, hey, you guys, your favorite couch you slept on at my house a bunch of times, I'm dropping it off of your house. It's yours forever.
Yeah.
They didn't mind. Yeah.
Or, you can round that up and make it into a yard sale and make an extra couple of bucks.
If you can.
Exactly.
I put a bunch of stuff on Craigslist, a bunch. And so it took a while. Like it was probably about 8 days while I'm inventorying my whole house, getting rid of stuff. And yeah, from time to time, a few people a day will swing by like, you're the guy with the vacuum, right? Yep. Here's $100. All right. Peace out. You're the guy with the refrigerator, right? Yep. Peace out. That kind of thing.
The professional term is liquidizing your property.
Yeah. Liquidating. Absolutely. Now, it is worth noting, I found out a lot about goodwill and charitable organizations. What that means is ideally you can sell it and get money. Absolutely. Yard sale, Craigslist, ideally. But that's just not going to be true for everything. There's no way you're going to sell, in my case, 500 books to people at a yard sale. It's just not going to happen. So there's a lot of stuff I ended up giving away. Literally pull up in the bus, and then just you got to have your own independent storage and not burden anybody else with it, if you can. So in this case, for example, Yeah, I ended up renting a storage and I prepaid it for 3 years, which is a lot of money, but it's got to be done. So, yeah, do whatever you got to do to get rid of as much as possible to go through the eye of a needle. Get down to one bag. Get down to one bag. Um, if you got a lot of money, great. Get storage. It's about $600 a year, generally speaking. So yes, it was $1,800 that I ended up having to pay just to store all my stuff. Worth it. If I were to do it all over again, that would be zero. Because $600, $600, you know. So again, as close to zero as possible. So let's okay, let's flip the script a little bit here. Taxes. Okay. Here's the thing. In general, pay your taxes. Okay, that's a nice starting point. You know, if you owe taxes in Vietnam, pay them. If you owe taxes in America, pay them. It's that simple. Because if you don't, you're going to run into some issues that you might not expect. For example, even traveling related things, it's possible you could get stopped at an airport or prevented getting a new passport. Let's just say your passport expired, you go to apply for one while you're sitting in, let's say, Vietnam, and they deny your passport because you. Yeah. So that would be an example of where they could ding you.
Yeah,
That is a gotcha. They don't tell you that. It's not a real. Don't travel to a different country and then very often. So, but this is a very big deal. So what that means is pay off your, do what you do, and yes, even while you're traveling overseas, start tax in Vietnam, like income or something. That's working at a restaurant or being a business consultant or tax. Could you
honestly don't have much income. The company that hire you will do the taxes for you.
Right.
It will goes, from your general.
Just say your work permit, and stuff like that. And what you do is a hotspot. All right. We'll get her straightened out, but it might be good to fire up anyway. All right, welcome back. So now, so that's all pretty straightforward, and is more how to handle things in America. Well, here's a couple of good things. First of all, when you're the income requirement kind of stuff, right? So first of all, if you're making under, let's don't really owe any taxes anyway. Now you do still have to. So in that regard, the put down zeros. Next, income tax. Okay. Okay.
The Android 18.
Okay.
The chat work.